Hi everyone, welcome back to Intermediate Ukulele with me, Matt Stead. In today's video, we're going to have a look at alternating thumb fingerstyle. A really beautiful way to play fingerstyle accompaniment to your songs, where the thumb is constantly alternating between two strings on your ukulele, producing a really lovely, dynamic and beautiful fingerstyle pattern. I'm going to show you how to do it. We're going to break it down into tiny parts. I'm going to show you what it looks like on tablature, and we'll try a song, I'll Fly Away, where we can put it into practice. Later on, I'll show you how versatile this fingerstyle pattern can be. And we'll look at another time signature, and we'll also investigate swing a little bit with it as well. So first of all, what is alternating thumb? So an alternating thumb pattern is one whereby the thumb is skipping over two strings, normally adjacent to each other. And in this instance, we're going to have it skipping between the C string and the G string. I'm just playing a G chord here for practice. So we have a C string and a G string. And in most cases, the thumb pick is going to take the strong beats. So in 4/4 timing, common timing, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or in cut time, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. And then the fingers quite often play together in unison, and I'll teach you how to do this in a lot of detail in a moment. They'll take the weak beats. So in 4/4 time, they will hit on 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. When we put that together, we get this lovely pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Which is really versatile and can be used for loads of different forms of music. Let's take a look in detail what that looks like with some tablature, and then I'll break it down. Don't worry, we're going to go literally one part at a time, and I'll teach you how to do it. Let's have a look. Ta-da! So here's that fingerstyle pattern represented in the form of tablature. Now don't worry if this is completely overwhelming at the moment. I'm going to break it down into lots and lots of detail and explain every little thing. Also ignore my terrible hand diagram. I'll explain that in a moment. If you are completely new to this, in my beginners course, I have a couple of videos on beginners fingerstyle. So it might be worth looking at those first, just to familiarise yourself with this kind of diagram, but I will explain it anyway. Let's break it down into tiny parts, and this will help to learn the finger picking pattern as well if we do it this way. So let's just concern ourselves with these red X's at the moment. Just a quick bit of background first. Remember that in tablature, one of these groups of lines with a vertical line here and a vertical line here represents a measure. So that's one chunk of time. And in this measure, we're going to be playing 4/4 timing, common time. That means 4 beats. The lines going across represent the strings of your ukulele. But remember, the G string here represents the string nearest your eyes. So the lowest line here is actually the top of your ukulele strings. Confusing, isn't it? But you get used to it as you go along. The A string here, the top line, represents this A string, which when we bring our ukulele back round, is the one nearest the floor. It can take a bit of getting used to. The way I think about it is my eyes are looking in this direction. So my eyes, the first string my eyes hit when I'm looking downwards, not literally of course, is this G string. So let's break that down then. Remember that P represents the thumb, because in Spanish, thumb is pulgar. So this diagram is telling us to pick the C string with our thumb. That's the first red cross. We're going to ignore the rest of these numbers and letters at the moment, and ignore the green crosses as well for now. So we're just looking at the red ones. We're picking the C string with our thumb. I'll go into the physics of how to hold your hand a little bit later. Then we're picking the G string with our thumb. P again for thumb. Then we're picking the C string with our thumb. And we're picking the G string with our thumb one more time. So in this measure, the thumb is going C, G, C, G. 1, 2, 3, 4. C, G, C, G. just practice that along with me. With your thumb, pick C and G. C, G. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fantastic. So the numbers below the letters represents the beats in the measure. Notice that the thumb is picking on the strong beats, the ones with the numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, before we have a look at what the fingers are doing, let's have a look in a bit more detail about arm and hand position when we're doing this fingerstyle form of playing. There's a couple of things I want you to notice. As always, remember, the lower bout of the ukulele is sat on the inner part of my leg. I'm going up at a 45-degree angle. That's really important. We don't want our uke down here or like this, like the Beatles used to play, a bit more like a classical guitar at this 45-degree angle. Now, here's the really important thing. In classical guitar playing, there's two forms of fingerstyle arm placement. There's long arm, where the arm comes from the side of the guitar or ukulele straight along the strings. Now, this way is kind of uncomfortable when we're doing this form of picking, because you end up picking with the side of your thumb, which is hard to kind of get in any purchase on the strings with, and the sides of your fingers, which again is a bit uncomfortable, and you can hit the string and it doesn't quite sound great with this form. So what I prefer is what we call short arm. Now that means that the arm is coming more over the top of the ukulele. It's not down here to the side, I'm coming over the top. Also notice that there's a nice arch there. So this part of my hand isn't going to interfere and mute with the strings. What that also means is that I'm using the nail of my thumb to pick. Okay? Can you see there at that angle? It's almost the middle part of my nail. If you don't have a nail, using the flesh of your thumb is also perfectly good. But it's a lot better to use the inside part, the middle part of the nail, than the sides. You're more likely to get a nice, clean, warm tone and not catch the side of the string. What this position also means, where I have this nice arch and coming in from the top, is that these two fingers, which we're going to look at next, I'll go into more detail about this in a minute, they're pulling upwards. I'm not pulling up with the side, which is kind of awkward, they're pulling upwards, which is a more natural position. So let's just play no chord at all and hold our ukulele in this position, arm over the top, nice arch. Let's practice changing between the C string and the G string with our thumb. You'll notice that in this pattern we're starting, our first pick is with the thumb on the C string, and then we go to the G string. The reason I like it that way around, C to G, is that the first beat of every measure is the lowest note on the ukulele, or the lowest string that you can play in this pattern, which sits nicely low, high, low, high. There's no reason it couldn't be the other way around, but I just think going from low to high is more satisfying for the ears. So when I'm playing this pattern with low G, I'll quite often reverse it and hit the low G note first, then the C, because I'm still getting that low to high. But for normal reentrant tuning, we're going to play C string, G string. Let's practice that a few times. C, G, C, G. Notice that my hand is come further back than where I strum. I'm not over the fingerboard, I'm more over the sound hole, because then my fingers aren't getting tangled up in the fingerboard. I also want you to notice that as I pick with this thumb, it's what we call a free stroke. I'm not holding it against the string below like that. I'm allowing it to come away from the ukulele in almost a cyclical kind of circular motion. That's really important, because if I was to bring it down here, it would kind of trip up these fingers for the next bit. C, G, play along with me, C, G. And practice trying to get an equal tone on both strings, so neither comes out louder than the other. Fantastic. And if we go back to our diagram, let's turn the camera around. There we are, that's exactly what we're doing with the thumb. C, G, C, G. And that's the first part of this finger picking pattern. let's have a look at next at what the fingers are doing. Now, first of all, if we look at the diagram, notice one thing. We have two fingers involved. Look, we have an M and an I. The I stands for index, or if you're American, I think call that the pointer. Still comes from Spanish because it's indice for index, and medio in Spanish, or middle finger. So we're using the index finger, your first finger and your second finger. I have to be careful not to do a rude gesture there. And we're placing them roughly together. So we're holding these two fingers together. They're not far apart like this. They're loosely together, not pushed hard, but very kind of just naturally sitting together. Notice that the index is the lower of these two letters. Don't want you to overly worry about that. It just means that the index is going to pick up on the E string, the third one down from your nose. That one there. Okay. And notice the X's line up simultaneously. So as the index is picking the E string, the M, medio or middle finger, is picking up on the A string. Okay, so what I want you to do is take those two fingers, your first and second fingers, put them together but quite relaxed. Remember, with this angle that we're coming out of the ukulele, we don't want to be using the side of our fingers. We want to have that nice arch coming over the top of the ukulele, and we're picking up those bottom two strings nearest the floor at the same time, using the middle part of the nails of your fingers. And the reason we use the middle part is that it gives you the cleanest, warmest tone. That's why we don't do it that way, because it would be the side. If you don't have nails, totally cool, still get a lovely tone. We use the middle part like that of the flesh of your fingers, and that will sound just as nice, and it will still have the warmest tone as opposed to using the sides. Now notice that these green marks, the X's, where we're using our fingers, come on what we call often the weak beat or the off beat in this piece of music. That means between the numbers. So we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I'm picking up on the ands. Practice it along with me. Two fingers together. We're going to pick up just the fingers, not the thumb part. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay. Might take a bit of practice. What we really want is a nice equal tone, something quite light, and we don't want them picking individually like this. We want them to come up at exactly the same time, a nice consistent tone. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Fantastic. Okay. Now, before we get onto the full pattern, what I want you to do to help practice this interplay between the thumb and these fingers is to practice picking the C string with your thumb, followed by the E and A strings with your fingers, like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Notice my thumb is coming down on the numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, and my fingers are picking up on the ands. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Try it me. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Try to get it nice and consistent so the thumb is as loud as the fingers, and get that nice consistent timing. Now that you've practiced that, we can put the whole thing together. Again, if this confuses you, don't worry too much about this. Just follow the pattern that I'm doing on my ukulele, but you'll see it corresponds with the crosses on the diagram. So what we're going to do now, instead of just picking the C string and then fingers, we're going to alternate that thumb. So it's going to go C, fingers, G, fingers, C, fingers, G, fingers, thumb, fingers, G, fingers, thumb, fingers, thumb, fingers. Practice with me. C, fingers, G, fingers. C, fingers, G, fingers. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Fantastic. Let's start slow and then speed up. See if you can keep up with me. It'll be a fun game. You might drop out midway. Let's see how fast we can go just for fun. I'll start slow and speed up. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and C and G and C and G, and now we're speeding up. C and G and C and G and C and. So you could go crazy fast if you practice it. But for most purposes, we don't need to go crazy fast, which is cool. It's a nice simple strum. Even at this rhythm, it gives us a lovely, lovely pattern. Let's try putting that to a piece of music. Quick caveat before we put it to the song. Take your time with that. Remember, these lessons are meant to last you at least a week, sometimes months if it takes a lot of practice. So just practice around that C pick, G pick. Make sure you're really comfortable with that. And you can almost do it without thinking, and then come back to the video and we'll have a look at the song now. The song that we're going to have a look at is a really, really lovely old time piece called I'll Fly Away, which is played a lot at old time and bluegrass festivals. It's in the key of G, and it's what we call a 1-4-5 song, one of the most common types of forms of song in modern music. 1-4-5 quite simply means the chords that are used are based on the 1st, the 4th and the 5th scale degrees of the key of G. That just means we have G, not A, not B, C, D. G, A, B, C, D, G, C, D. 1, 4, 5. So 3 chords. Almost put up 4 fingers then, didn't I? 3 chords, G, C and D. And hopefully you know these by now. If you're not sure, the chord diagrams will be up on the screen. So I'm just going to magically put the chords up on the screen. Now, this is the entire song. It's not a trick. It's one of the things I love about a lot of old time and bluegrass music and a lot of old spiritual songs, is the fact that it's the same kind of verse again and again and again. There isn't really a difference between the verses and the chorus in terms of the chords, which is fantastic for our playing. Keeps it nice and simple. So notice, we're just going to strum this to get used to it. And I want you to do strums on the numbers and the ands. I'll show you what I mean. We're often called these straight 8s. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. 8s because we're counting the ands as well. So you could think of it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But I want you to count it in the traditional sense of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so that would be one measure. Notice that the pattern between the 2 lines is almost identical. We have 2 measures of G, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Then we have another chord. In the first line, this is a C for 1 measure, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then we go back to the G, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the second line is almost identical, only instead of the C, we have a D placed in. So practice this round with me a couple of times after 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3. Next line. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and D and 2 and 3 and 4 and G and 2 and 3 and 4. Fantastic. And we keep that going round and round for the verses and choruses. Let's try once through the song. It's quite a short song, so we can try it all together. Don't worry about the words and the lyrics. You can look them up if you want, or you can sing along with me if you know it. Let's give it a go after 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and some bright morning when this life is over, I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. Okay, simple as that. A really nice 1-4-5 song in a key of G. Now, let's look at putting that picking pattern in, the fingerstyle pattern that we just learned. One of the things I love about this alternating fingerstyle pattern with the thumb is that thumb keeps you in time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. As long as you keep it nice and steady, it counts the measures along for you. Let's slow that down. So remember, we're going to do 4 thumb picks in every measure. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that's your first measure. The next measure the same, another G. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Then we have the C chord. Remember that tip I showed you in the last video? When we change from C to G, we can keep that second finger down as an anchor if we want. That's going to be one measure. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Then we go back to G for a measure. The next line is the same, but with a D. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and another measure. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then D and 2 and 3 and 4 and back to G. Remember what I showed you with the reassurance of when you're learning a strum or a rhythm, that don't worry if you muck up this hand. If your changes are a little bit and it takes you a little while to get your fingers down, just keep this right hand going no matter what, because this right hand wants to become like a metronome and it doesn't want to stop. What I don't want you to do when you're learning it is stop, move fingers, start again, because you're teaching yourself to play out of time with this right hand. Let's give it a go. We'll take it nice and slowly. I'll count you in. The first time we'll try it without the lyrics so that I can help you count between the chords, and then we'll try it with the words. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and C and 2 and 3 and back to G. 2 and 3 and 4. Next line. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and D and 2 and 3 and 4 and back to G. Okay, now let's try it with the words. Remember, we're going to play all of the chords through twice, once as a verse and once as the chorus or the second part. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Some bright morning, when this life is over, I'll fly away. Next line. To that home on God's celestial shore, I'll fly away. And again. I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, is that it? I'll fly away. Well done, everyone. You can play that through round and round and try and get really, really comfortable with that pattern. Let's look at a couple of extras that we can put in to make it even nicer. One of the things that a lot of players will do with this song is when we go around for the second time of playing those chords, they'll take the G and they'll turn it into what we call a power chord. And all that means is they replace the B note from a G chord, that one there, with a high D note, which is this one here. And all we need to do that is play our normal G chord and add our little finger to this 5th fret of the A string. It's quite a stretch, isn't it? But with practice, you can move that finger up there. Try and get it as far to the right-hand side of the fret as possible. I know it's difficult, you want to put it here, but you might get a buzz if you do that. But if we move to the right, nice clean chord. Now the reason that's called a power chord is it only has 2 notes, which gives it a very strong sound. We have a G note here, a low D, another G note, and a high D. So 2 forms of G, a low one here, and a high one here. Gives it a real zip, doesn't it? So when we get to that second time through of the song, I'll fly away, oh glory. The first G we're going to do is that power chord, and I'll put a little mark next to the G so you can see it. We only do it on that G, the first one we hit, the second time round. You'll soon see. Okay. Another common thing to do in old time music is to delay that D chord, the one that comes in the second line, and push it back half a measure. So instead of having 2 measures of G, 1 measure of D, 1 measure of G, have a look on screen. Now we have 2 measures of G, another half a measure of G, half a measure of D, and then another measure of G. So it will sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It's quite tricky that, because we're changing chord mid-bar like we looked at a couple of lessons ago, but it creates a real sense of drama by pushing that chord back. Now both these things, adding the power chord G and delaying that D chord, these are something for players that have already got this pattern under their fingers, they feel more confident and they want a bit of pushing. If you're still getting used to this picking pattern and you're finding it quite difficult, just watch this bit so you can get an essence of how it works, but don't worry about it for now. If it feels like a step too far, just watch the video, but don't worry about playing it this way quite yet. Just go with the original playthrough to practice, and then when you feel ready, come back to it. Okay, so let's have a go at this. I'm going to up the tempo slightly. What I suggest is just watching this video around once, just to familiarise yourself with where that power chord is going to come in and that delayed D, and then rewind and have a go yourself. Here we go, after 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Some bright morning when this life is over, I'll fly away to that home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. One more go. Some bright morning when this day is over, I'll fly away to that home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. Is that power chords? I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. Well done, guys, if you managed that one. Isn't that lovely? Those little kind of extras just give it an extra edge and add a little bit more dynamic. Just to finish off, let's have a look at a couple of things we can do to this picking pattern to make it really versatile and use it for other things. The first is swing. At the moment, just playing a G chord, I'm going to keep this quite straight. Every pick that we do, whether it be with the thumb or the fingers, is exactly the same length. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, we call that straight time. Now if we want to swing this, all that we have to do with our thumb and fingers is exactly the same pattern, but we make this pick up ever so slightly shorter, so the emphasis is on the thumb picks. I'll show you what I mean. This is straight. Okay, now swing. It almost makes that up pick, almost like a little hiccup or a sniff. Do you see how short it is? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And now we have a swing pattern. Straight, swing. It's almost like we're a little bit lazy, going to the finger pick, and make those thumb picks ever so slightly longer. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Another thing that we can do with this pattern, which makes it so versatile, is the fact that we can play it in waltzes. Now I haven't got time to show you a full waltz. Let's look at this in a later video in more detail. But just to show you how you can easily alter this pattern to make it a waltz. So at the moment, again I'll do a G just for ease. We're going thumb, fingers, thumb, fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4. All I need to do to make it a waltz is to hit 2 of the finger part. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm playing C, pick, pick, G, pick, pick. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, C, 2, 3, G, 2, 3. Now, exactly the same motion as before, we have a waltz. Isn't that neat? So you can have a little experiment. If you can find some songs that use waltz time, you can have a little practice of that. That'd be really great. We'll do that in a lot more detail in a later video. So remember, take your time with that. Really make sure that you've got it. Practice those parts as I taught them. So perhaps just the thumb on its own first. Then the thumb and fingers, staying on the C string. And then add the alternating. And go easy on yourself, go really, really slowly and get really, really comfortable with that. It's a really, really versatile finger picking pattern, as I say, and it's so useful for so many genres and so many pieces of music. Another really simple one to try this pattern to is something like This Land Is Your Land, This Land Is My Land. That's a really, really nice one. A very simple, another kind of traditional folk tune, which will work really well with this.